Hello and welcome to another edition of the NRS Insights podcast. I'm John Lofstock, and today I'm joined by an old friend, someone I've known, we just discussed about 30 years. It's Ed Collupy, who is the principal of Collupy System Solutions, and really more than that, he's been a retailer, he's been a consultant. Have you ever been on the supply side, Ed? I
I've
don't
never been on the supply side.
Okay.
No.
But Ed probably forgot more about retail this morning than most people will, learn in a lifetime. Today we're going to discuss the National Retail Federation's 2026 conference, which took place in New York in January. And as always, the NRF show, if you haven't been, it focuses in on trends that retailers across all channels, not just convenience, can expect to see in the coming years. And this year's conference, as you can imagine, focused on accelerating AI adoption, agentic AI commerce, which we'll get into, and sustainable tech-driven supply chain solutions. So the key themes this year were AI-driven shopping, the integration of reverse logistics, personalized and health-forward consumer experiences, and highlighting how technology enables a unified, automated retail ecosystem. So that's a mouthful. That's a lot of good stuff. But and we were talking earlier that I remember when we had the NAG conference and we had a robotics company, and it's more than 10 years ago, and we were trying to tell these people, the attendees, about this artificial intelligence stuff and how a robot can walk around the store and greet people and tell you when to clean stuff, and people were blown away. That seems like, you know, a decade-old technology already based on what you saw at the conference. Do you agree?
Yes, yeah. It's really interesting to see how AI has evolved. And to your point, it has been around under different names in
Hmm.
over the years. Certainly in the last couple of years, the whole AI term has kind of exploded. First kind of being, well, it's really machine learning, and now this year at NRF, the theme turned out to be that agentic AI, which really is the evolution of letting, you know, a, a bot or letting a system kind of drive you and do the work for you.
Hmm.
Um, and it was definitely a theme at the show.
Sure, and operational AI and the integration of retail technology with AI. Now, the reason why I couldn't wait to speak with you, because you really, from the beginning days of Nax Tech, you were probably at, if not the first one of the first ones, and then the evolution and the launch of Connexus. You have been at the forefront of retail technology for quite a while. Is this? I guess this is a tough. I can't ask you. Did you see it going here? But are you surprised? Were you still surprised by some of the things you saw, having witnessed all the evolution through the years?
I would say that the surprise is really around the themes that I discovered at the show, right?
Hmm.
I knew walking in that there'd be hundreds of solution providers with solutions that were AI supported, driven, um, you know,
Hmm.
made up of have some components of AI in their solution. And that rang true. I mean, in my mind, almost every other booth had something on their banners or on their marketing stuff that talked about AI. But to me, it was really, I walked away from NRF with a feeling of um, understanding other themes. And the two big themes I walked away with were, how might AI make us all smarter and make the industry smarter? And then the other theme that was important to me was around integration.
Okay.
So AI leading to better integration. Um,
Okay. So let's start with the first one, making retailers smarter. So let's say you're a mid-sized chain right now. What could you do to get into, to start putting AI to work for your company? Is it marketing? Is it labor or HR, or just all of the above?
it really is all the above, but I'll tell a story around the employee side of it, and I heard folks from Kroger, sort of an adjacent industry to convenience, but they were very frank and very honest, saying that their first attempt at AI in introducing something AI driven at store level
Hmm.
was real was wasn't a success, and discovered pain points. They
Okay.
stepped back from that and really then focused in on bringing frontline employees into the conversation and actually onto the team that was going to drive their next attempt to introduce AI as an employee tool. And they did it in a very big way, in a very thoughtful way. They used a big firm to help them get there, of course. But between the whole teams, they ended up with a solution that's now being used across hundreds of thousands of employees throughout the Kroger system,
Hmm.
and and engaged the employees to the degree that they named their tool. So we all have Claude and we have ChatGPT,
Hmm.
and but Kroger has something called Sage,
Okay.
and Sage, out of kind of wisdom that the tool can provide to the employees, but also Sage on the theme of a food product.
Very
So,
nice. Mhm.
but it was employee driven, and employee came up with the name. So, I mean, they really went at it in a big way relative to, you know, allowing AI to be a tool that will help employees be better employees, help the employee feel better about who they're working for, and also become more astute with what they needed to know to make the consumer experience even better.
Okay. So AI, the key to AI is I'm going to use some bad English language here, is learning it, right? Is teaching it. So how much do the Kroger employees, and I'm just picking on Kroger because you mentioned them, but any company that's going to try to do something like this, how important is it to get input from the customers and from the employees? And do you know what they're sharing? Like, are they sharing, I had a good shift, I had a bad shift, I can't work these hours? Like, what goes into it?
It's an across the board tool, um, giving around scheduling.
Hmm.
So the system begins to learn, what's good for Ed, what's good for John, and see what patterns. If I'm changing my schedule, it begins to learn that and know how then to schedule me where I won't be making changes to schedules. It gives people visibility to, what shifts are open, so people can choose around that. And again, that's another way the system begins to learn around where are the spots that maybe I need to think, a manager then needs to think about, I need to be hiring for this portion of the day to fill shifts that are left
Hmm.
vacant by people over time. It's helps them also answer questions. So if I'm asking a question around, why aren't we carrying this item that I'm hearing from customers? It begins to learn all of those things and then develop data really for the rest of the Kroger team to be making smarter decisions with.
And all of this is so it frees up the manager, it probably gives the manager back hours in the week that they're not worried about scheduling. And then I would assume that with reporting, it either generates an automatic report weekly or daily to the right people to get that kind of sales input.
Yeah, and I would imagine it does that as well, John.
Mhm.
I don't recall the
Okay.
specific of outputs, but just the wealth of information that you can gather from employees and about
Mhm.
employees and give back to employees was pretty amazing.
Yeah, there's a great saying, if it's okay to fail, but learn to fail fast. And on the Kroger side, did they get into, because we've seen it in the industry, people want to get into food service and they come up with this elaborate menu and they can't execute 30 items. So, you get into food service with a pizza and a hamburger and you just do it great. Did did Kroger or anyone who's failed with AI kind of get into the weeds on what went wrong? Is it simply just trying to do too much too soon or assuming that AI is something, that it isn't?
Yeah, so Kroger, but then part of my NRF experience is going to a pre-event of
Hmm.
NRF. It's held on the Saturday before the show actually starts. It's a charitable but technology kind of mix
Hmm.
event, fundraiser from an organization called Retail ROI. They sponsor this Super Saturday event. And there were three retailers there that spoke about their AI experiences. And without, these are uh, Dollar Tree, Vitamin Shop, Total Line. So Dollar Tree certainly being adjacent, but other retailers with smaller footprint stores than a supermarket, they all emphasize getting smarter with AI and told their story around their failures to your
Okay.
question. And their failures were really what Kroger learned as well. We need to involve frontline employees, and we shouldn't back at home office be making assumptions about what it is that's needed down at store level. I think it was Dollar Tree that told the story around um, the first day I experienced was something like create an operating procedure, what to do if a car crashes through the front,
Okay.
front of the store. And when it was delivered as here's AI at work for you, store employees, the feedback immediately came back to them saying, wait a minute, the first thing I'm not going to do is not going to go to my PC to find out what to do when the car crashes. I'm going to be out of the store out of just a safety mechanism. I'm going to find my way to the back door. So they quickly learned, like, we really got to think through the use cases carefully and listen to what is really needed down at store level. So I think it's that lesson of, listening to what's truly needed by store level frontline employees.
Great. Now, if we can pivot real quick, I mean, there were so many great themes. Operational AI, and this kind of encompasses more of the store operations and inventory scanning, perhaps reordering, but real supply chain efficiency, which is a big deal right now to convenience stores who are trying to, you shave some pennies off of their cost. What did you see anything that stood out in terms of retailers employing this kind of technology?
I I met with two solution providers that also do. One of them does a lot of consultancy work,
Hmm.
and they really talked about, what are those important um, factors that build out a good retailing experience, and the whole idea of category management being
Hmm.
key, assortment, um, price point, and using AI tools to help you get there were key to, in their mind, to convenience retailing. So in this case, the study that they did was for the first time that they've done studies in the convenience industry was revealing and really centered around those types of themes.
Okay. Where in our industry, in the C-store industry, where do you think retailers stand in that evolution? Are they ready for these technologies? Do you see the top quartile chains already jumping on board, or do you think we still have, a certain level of knowledge to gain?
Yeah, I think we are on the top quartile are probably on board.
Hmm.
Whether there's a really close collaboration with CPG partners, which was kind of a recommendation of that firm's
Absolutely.
study.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know that tight-knit collaboration is quite there yet, but certainly people have begun to invest in tools um, that get them there. But
Okay.
I think there's room for the rest of the industry. Top quadrant is large chains.
Yeah.
And so for, mid to smaller size retailers, The question then becomes of that I often hear from those folks is, where should I start? And even how do I start, right?
Hmm.
And I think the answer for those folks are to be sure you're teaming up with solution providers, that are within our industry that have a focus and are spending time and investing in their tools to begin deliver, kind of real advanced AI functionality. Some of them have, there's been suggested ordering, which is, part of going back to the early days of AI and machine learning and those types of things. Wasn't called that, but it was predictive and helping people make an order based on data sets that were available and
Hmm.
assumptions that you'd feed in. Today there's a lot more data points that can be used, and but those are from industry solution providers that have got to be advancing, um, in this world of AI.
And I'm sure you've seen whether it's McDonald's or Popeyes that are using, these touch screens now when you go in and you can actually scan. And once you do that, they know all of your previous orders right on the spot. So if you order this, they upsell you that. It's Convenience stores aren't there. They could be, but they're not there yet.
Right, and it's interesting you bring food service up. The other thing that I've been watching at the NRF show over the last several years has been the presence of food service within the show itself.
Interesting.
The last few years, NRF has teamed up with the International Food and Beverage Technology Association, and IFBTA takes over some space at the show and curates the solution providers that are going to be there. That's been fascinating to see in the past few years, just around the robotics that are within
Yeah, yeah.
the food service element. But this year they even expanded it further to get to that other theme that I mentioned about integration. So the curated space included an area that was set up like a pit stop in a racetrack, and you could actually hop into a small go-kart type and travel around the show floor in a space, and it would stop at certain points that were all different points of service. So whether it was a kiosk or a voice operated drive-through, whether it was a payment device, how the order got from inside the store to where you are, all of those things being either, AI driven, automation driven, robotics,
Mm.
all of that was shown kind of in a very integrated fashion, and how all these points of service, when they come together, can deliver a better consumer experience. And
That's
I think it was pretty fascinating. But again, the growth of food service that we're seeing in our own industry,
hmm
our industry, the convenience industry's got to be aware that every retail segment is looking at how food service becomes a part of their consumer experience.
Sure. And when you start talking about the adoption of robotics and the integration of AI, this is where you hate where politics starts to integrate with business, but these pushes for minimum wage hikes, and some states are pushing $30 an hour wages. You just can't do $30 an hour and have a dollar menu at McDonald's or have a $5 sub at Subway. It just doesn't add up. There's not enough
Right.
margin and profit. But if you have robotics now that can make a sandwich or that can make the fries, uh, some of these jobs, I hate to say it, they're going to start going away.
Right. Yeah, there was a fun um, solution provider there that brought fun into the whole robotics piece. It was robotics, but one of my devices that they sell was a cotton candy kind of vending machine, but it
Hmm.
was robotics. And I mean, just the idea that, you know, a kid or even an adult, the adults at the show were loving that they could go up and get a cotton candy, and walk away with it onto the show floor. So I think the whole idea of using robotics, but then jazzing it up with the way the robotics booth looked, and just the whole,
Hmm.
lots of smiles, and lots of happy people, which is what you want at the end of the day from people coming into your store.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've AI. We I knew we were going to touch on this quite a bit, but I would like to get one or two of your other takeaways, your other thoughts, and viewing this floor, and really being such an insider with this organization, just does so much for our industry.
Yeah, I think that whole idea, going back to smart and integration. It really it it's not about a single technology. It becomes a mindset. Uh,
Hmm.
you know, there were sessions, and there were, again, solution providers that you know get at data, and how to use data more. And I think the struggle within our industry still remains, hey, I've got all this data, but what am I going to do with it? So
Hmm.
just discovering ways to begin to manage that data becomes critically important. And The other is a favorite of mine, and a frustration of mine is I so often hear, um, probably even more so outside of the convenience industry, that we've implemented a solution to eliminate consumer friction. And to me, there is just still so much friction,
Yeah.
um, even with the new solutions that have been put in place. Um, that this, in my mind, there's still work to be done there. And I would stop in at a solution provider's booth and chat about, hey, why doesn't it work when I go into retailer X, Y, or Z?
Hmm.
And then they look at you, and they say, "What do you mean? What would?" And then they want to hear the story. But there's room there, I think, for improvement still.
I had a similar conversation with Gus Olympus not that long ago about friction, and it drives him crazy. Having to enter your PIN number is not friction. Having to, you know, scan something when you get up to it's not that's friction, and that people, some of these changes just don't fully understand uh, the mission when it comes
Right,
to.
right. I mean, I was in a store just this week, and they have a new kiosk check-in site system. It was at a pharmacy, and scan your barcode from your phone. Well, it wouldn't scan. It took three times, and then the employee comes along, and she's trying to help, and all of a sudden, boom, she's like, "Wait a minute, how did that happen?" And so she was just as surprised, but it's like all new, but
Mhm.
not working the way it should.
And yeah, they'll get there. There's the trial, and you just have to keep them, much the same way that you integrate AI with your employees, you have to keep customers in the loop. This is, something new. We're trying it. Eventually it will work. And we're still at this precipice where you have some of the older generation that just not buying any of this, right? I love to talk to an employee. I love to use cash. I'm that guy that still has a 20 in his pocket to pay for his coffee. Um, and I understand that retailers want to push you onto these mobile payments, and I get it, but you still got to deal with both sets of customers.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the although demographics in the customer profile has probably changed and is going to continue to change, it that full change is going to take time, and
Mhm.
retailers need to be ready for um, all types across a large spectrum of types of customers.
All right,
And
great.
certainly we serve every type of customer imaginable, right? We're
Hmm.
not niche. The convenience industry serves the largest amount of consumers day in and day out than any other retail segment. And but we shouldn't forget that.
Hmm. Best corners, best service, and no one yeah, really no one understands the customer better. So,
Right.
all right. Well, last question as we're wrapping up here. just put on your 1 year or a 5 year hat. What? All right, AI is big. We'll see that progress. Anything that we're not thinking about? What do you see that, if there's one thing that you would tell retailers that's not AI to keep an eye on or to get better at, what would it be?
Um, to get better at, I would say concentrate in on data management, how to use the data. You might use an AI tool to help you get there, but that overall challenge of put the data that you have and will continue to gain to use.
Oh yeah.
Don't let it sit idle. There's way too much value in it, and continue to work to, set your organization on a path that it um, can be used well.
Yeah, and again, don't try to do everything all at once with the data. Pick one or two things
Right.
and master it and do it great.
Yeah, and I think it's really not about chasing new technology. It's really about making, thoughtful choices, around what you're going to do next and how you can improve um, the consumer experience and the everyday retail experience, as well as how you can begin to empower employees even more.
Great. All right, Ed, I want to thank you very much for your time. I was looking forward to talking to you just to get your insights. I miss our conversations. So I'll have to bother
Yeah,
you
it
from
was
time to
great to
time.
catch up. It was great to catch up. Thanks, John.
Good. All right. So everyone, for Ed, I'm John Lofstock. Thanks again for tuning into this edition of the NRS Insights podcast. We hope you tune into a future podcast, and we hope that you have a good afternoon, everyone. Thanks.